with Mr. Heisman, Alabama's very own Bryce Young. Is he the best quarterback in this class? Let's just start there because there's been some even debate over the last 12 months, even down to the wire a couple times last year. Trevor Knight, I'm going to start with you. How do you assess Bryce in this class?
So I'm going to answer your question specifically, George. I do believe that he's the best quarterback in this class. Now that takes out stuff we're probably going to get to. How long is he going to play? Is he going to have the most successful NFL career? All of those types of things I think are up for debate. But in terms of putting him in himself in a position to be drafted #1 overall to a team that needs a quarterback, yes, I think he's the best quarterback in this draft. And he showed it. He showed it, and it's what we talked about for the last several years of how he came in, and when he stepped in between the white lines, he completely took over ball games. He's got the arm strength, he's got the precision accuracy, and he's just got that moxie about him that makes every single player on that offense around him better.
Hack.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I feel like these are always going to be overcovered. It's the most overanalyzed position in sports. The way I look at this draft class is that you have Bryce Young and CJ Stroud as 1A and 1B. I think they're the two most accomplished guys coming in here. And for me, I tend to look at it as, at the end of the day, if you're in this conversation, you can play. What it's going to come down to is a fit, right? And for me, does Bryce Young fit for the Carolina Panthers right now? Or is it CJ Stroud? And I think the fit isn't necessarily, arm strength. None of that's out of it. It's more so, can you be the face of this franchise for 10 plus years? Can you fit in with the culture here? It's much more of the intangible stuff. And I think Bryce has had less chinks in that armor per se than CJ coming into this. CJ he never won a Big Ten championship, lost to Michigan twice, like those types of things, especially up there are kind of chinks in the armor. But when you really analyze it, both the guys can flat out play. And I think ultimately it's going to come down to who do they see as the guy who can be the face of this the face of the organization and turn them around and start getting back to relevance again. And that's why I think it's hard to cut through the minutia. But I think when you're making a decision like this, ultimately that's what's going to teeter who is going to be the guy.
Clint, you're in it and connected to it. Directly tied to one of the two organizations that he could wind up putting the jersey on for. What's your thoughts on this? How do you see Bryce Young in this class?
I think you got Bryce Young and the rest. I think Bryce Young is by far and away the best pro prospect. We're talking about these guys as pro prospects because we don't know what the hell they're going to do once they get there. And there's so many factors. Who's coaching them? What does the organization look like? Is it dysfunctional? Is it Super Bowl bound? All those things matter. All those factors come into play. But as we're talking about prospects, I think you got Bryce Young and the rest. When you talk about a guy that's pro ready, you got Bryce Young. When you talk about a guy that's playing the quarterback position, like the quarterback position is trending towards in 2023, more like a point guard than a rifleman, if you will. Mm-hmm. I think Bryce Young is spot on. Couldn't do it any better. When you talk about a guy that is a high-level processor, you talk about a guy that has elite instincts when he plays the game. This jumps out on every game film that you turn on when you watch Bryce Young. And the more we hear from Bryce Young, the more I become a believer, and I don't have to lean on what Saban said. I don't have to lean on the film. I hear the kid talk. And here's what's interesting to me, guys, as we hear him talk. And you guys know this, having been in locker rooms. Very few guys can pull off. If it's not authentic, it can't happen. But very few guys can pull off the, man, I'm blessed. Man, I'm thankful to be here. Man, I'm just glad people have an opinion of me. You know, that always saying the right thing and always being so grateful for the opportunity and the situation that he's in. You can't pull that off unless it's authentic. And when, especially in a locker room, and especially when you're leading a bunch of alphas, you can't pull that off unless you're authentic. And the more I hear from Bryce Young, the more I believe that not only does he have the it factor, but he has that authenticity, and leads from within his own personality, and that's just a really, really powerful thing, man. So when you talk about playing the position like a point guard, which in 2023 I think is the biggest, or is the trend. You talk about playing with great instincts, and then you talk about having that it factor. I think Bryce is in a league of his own, George.
I agree in a lot of ways. I think it's the invisible things that, like, when you look at him, people don't want to love him. They don't want to rally on him. This isn't Trevor Lawrence. It's not Burrow. It's not Caleb or Drake next year. You just have to trust in his invisible. And all you guys said some version of that. I had a chance to work with Bryce when he's a seventh and eighth grader down here. And he was commuting 2 hours down from LA. And even as a little guy, and he was little then, little for his, he's always been smaller for his class. He'd always come early. He'd always have a little notebook, the little spiral notebook book, because I'd ask these guys, you know, hey, take this homework home, watch a Monday Night Football game, write down with you, and he would always come back with like the most notes. You're going to have to get your mind wrapped around the invisible. And what Clint was saying, instincts, his competitiveness, the accuracy, chunking information, all that stuff. I mean, this is the package he comes in. So yeah, when he hits the field, whether it's in Charlotte or whether it's going to be in Houston, he is going to be a day one starter. Like, he really is going to be a day one starter. And for all the people that kind of question, could he challenge the boundary? Because that's what you wonder with quarterbacks. Can they challenge creases, windows, and can he compete on the boundary? Everybody can throw it over the top. Yeah, because the game is now played. He'll be in a more kind of east-west type of system. You know, route combos will be manipulated for him, and all he'll have to do is kind of find his way over. He is going to be more point guard than Drew Bledsoe or Jim Everett. They're not going to ask him to throw 22-yard comebacks. I don't know how many guys are asked to do that today anyway. So I do think he has the best processing. He has the best processor in this draft.
George, he has the real, like, he doesn't just like process at a high level and he's really he effortlessly does it. Like, he understands, understands that at a young age, according to what you're saying and according to what we've seen, like, he understands, not because it's what the league asked him to do or not because it's what Saban asked him to do. He understands that I've got to be smarter than the next guy because I can't beat you with athletic ability. I can't beat you with arm strength. I gotta be smart, and I gotta be able to spray the football around the field from 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage to 10 yards beyond it. I gotta be smart, and he effortlessly does those things. Most quarterbacks coming out of college and going to the league, and I'll speak for myself. I know I was this way, but most of them are this way. Like, you got to teach them those things.
Yeah.
Like, we got guys beating their chest about having the strongest arm. Yeah. Talking about I got a cannon and I can't wait to show it off. Versus a guy going, hey, I know I got to get rid of the football. I got to get it out of my hands. I got to get it to my playmakers. Which guy do you want?
Yeah. I'll say this. I'll challenge. I agree with everything that everybody said, but I'll challenge the invisible comment. It's all visible to me. And let me paint a picture here. Look at the predecessors at Alabama and what they're doing in the NFL right now. You've got Tua. And say what you want about Tua, but he's a starting quarterback in the league. And he forced Jalen Hurts to transfer, right? Mm-hmm. You've got Jalen Hurts that just inked a $255 million deal and is playing the best football maybe of anybody in the league right
Bro,
now.
real
outside
quick,
the top three guys.
Tua was in the MVP conversation midway through the
100%,
NFL season.
100%.
Enough said.
And then the other one was Mac Jones, a guy that also stepped into a role after sitting on the bench and plays a lot better football now than maybe early on in his career. And now you've got Bryce Young, not taking anything away from those guys, but those guys, we've all said it, they were surrounded by incredible talent. They weren't necessarily the only gas to make that engine go. And for the last 2 years, we've said, man, the Alabama offense doesn't have quite as much firepower or weapons on the outside or a running back that's going to run it up and down the field. The gas to that engine is Bryce Young. And so you look at the guys before him and what they're doing now, he's shown it. It's right there. We look at him and he doesn't look like Hack. He's not 6'4". He's not walking in the room and his hands just absolutely going over your forearm. So it may be a measurable thing, but in terms of playing the game of football, leading his team down the field, scoring touchdowns, having all the intangibles, great head on his shoulders. We got to talk to his dad, who spoke very highly of him. You know, he comes from a great family. I mean, he's a no-brainer to me at the #1 overall pick.